Hello and welcome back. It's Mobility Week. As you would have found out at the end of yesterday's video, mobility is about whether or not a certain joint can reach full range of movement. Anatomically speaking, there are degrees of movement in which a joint should move, but not everybody fits into that. What we're really talking about with mobility is whether a joint can reach a reasonable level of movement without affecting the position of the body part next to it. For example, whether you can move your shoulder without moving your back or your neck, whether you can move your hip without moving your pelvis or your lumbar spine in a particular direction. So let's start off with an easy one. I want you to come onto the mat and you're just going to raise one leg into a knee fold. So there's a 90-degree angle at hip and knee. Stabilize yourself with your arms. Make sure rib cage, head and pelvis are heavy in their position, and you're going to bring that knee into the center of the body. So across the body, then you're going to bring it up towards the rib cage, out towards the floor but not too far, down, and then across again so it's near the other knee, and keep going in this square motion. So this is called knee circles, even though it's a square. Good name. And what it's looking for is your ability to adduct, flex, abduct, and extend the knee in its inner ranges while it's loaded in this position, gravity on the shin. Now I want you to make sure that your pelvis isn't moving in this position. Your breathing is really to breathe in one direction and out for the next circle, in for one circle, and out for the next circle. Make sure that is stirring the joint. Now, if you're looking at your knee and you're finding you're not able to get it in, or it's not coming up, or it's not extending beyond its start position, then we have an example of restricted movement. Change direction, so coming in at the top and then extending away down, keep that shin parallel to the floor. If you're starting to feel your hip flexors particularly wearing down, then again that indicates the hip can get tired quickly and it needs to be strengthened up, and that in itself can cause restriction of movement when you're tired, because it's not going to want to work as hard. There's one more in the other direction, and then bring that down. Question: is your lower back sore in that movement? If it is, what it means is that movement is coming into the lower back. So make sure you're heavy through the pelvis. Try really hard on the next one not to move the pelvis, because what will be happening is it'll be rocking side to side or back and forth and just coming into the lumbar with some very small movements that it's not expecting. So again, knee out and down, knee across and up. Stabilize that pelvis, just moving from the hip joint. Nothing else is moving as this knee completes its circle or square. And then we're going to change direction. You might be finding you need a bit more in the core. Your glutes are active. And we come back to that conversation with the pelvic floor, making sure that is active to try and stabilize the pelvis so everything is turned on. And then we can see whether or not you have full movement through that hip joint. And one more, and bring that down. Now, your hips might be feeling pretty tight at this point. I want you to do one more thing. I want you to bring that knee so it's pointed towards the ceiling, and you're going to extend through the knee just to see what that capability is. You can see mine is coming more and more to straight up and down as I do this motion, as my hamstrings are relaxing into the motion. And that's without moving that pelvis. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that ability to get into a right angle. Let's go to the other side, and this leg is already there. You might be down here or a little bit further. And what this is doing is indicating that to get that leg up to the ceiling, your hamstrings are restricting that movement. Now, what that means is to get it up there, you're going to have to tuck your pelvis. And again, that lack of ability to straighten out with the hip at a right angle means that some hip movement will cause that to come into the lower back. So staying in this position, we're going to start talking about another part of the body where we know that lack of full range of movement can fall into the lower back, the shoulder area. What I want you to do, breathing in, bring your fingers pointed to the ceiling, and breathing out, arms straight, they come all the way over. Now, can you get the back of your hands all the way there without your ribs rising, without it altering the position of your spine? So keep going with the breathing, keeping that body alignment. If you're finding that one or both of the shoulders can't get to the floor, or your ribs are lifting, or your spine is lifting, and in some cases you might find there's a small rotation to one side or the other, then you have found a restriction in that joint that when you're trying to achieve full range of movement, it will come into your back, and it's not necessarily going to come in around the shoulder girdle. Sometimes it travels all the way down and hits your lumbosacral joint further down. And we see quite often people coming into this studio and they have tight shoulders, and that's causing their back pain. So we spend a lot of time on the shoulders. And this is really the concept of mobility. Is it highly mobile? Am I moving the joint right so that I'm not causing that even though the joint is mobile? So we're going to talk about that second point now. So we have a bone humerus here attached to the shoulder socket. If I'm bringing it over, at this point, we're good. I can keep my palms forward. But if I'm standing up, gravity is going to come from a completely different place. So we're going to go there now. I'm going to change the camera so you can see me at the back. So here I am. And what I'm going to do is show you proper movement of the shoulder within that area. First thing you'll notice is that the arm is actually coming forward of the body, not in line with the rib cage. The second thing you should notice is that the hand position is changing as it comes up. Palms are down here, and the humerus, this top bone, is rotating, so the palms are now towards the head in a way. And that's what we call the scapular plane. Now, if we have an improper motion, which many people have, which is straight out, you should be able to see here that the scapula is winging and I'm starting to rotate in the rib cage. So that rib cage rotation means my spine is rotating, and you can see that I'm slightly extended into the back. So what I want you to do with both arms is practice the scapular plane. So inhale and exhale. So it's coming out at about 15 to 20 degree angle from the seam of this shirt. It's always in the peripheral vision, and it means my shoulder blade is set correctly and my humerus can turn correctly to allow proper range of motion. So that's mobility, and that's what we'll be talking about all this week. We'll be looking particularly at the hip and the lumbar mobility and the shoulder girdle and the back, but also looking at issues, as we've seen, of tighter muscles and how those can impact the lower back particularly and cause pain. And with some exercises that we'll be showing you, hopefully you will bring yourself into a position where you're controlling against any sort of restrictions you might have. If you find you don't have any restrictions, that is fine, because we'll also be talking about hypermobility and how that can cause joint pain, neck pain, by being able to move beyond the range of movement, and if it's uncontrolled, it can cause injuries. And if it's in the joints, it's probably in the spine too, so it's going to be something that you might have to think about. That's me for today. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye.